Welcome. I'm Alfred Webre, and I'm here in a second interview with Tolec, who is the human contactee and representative of the Andromeda Council. And we have already done one interview, an article with Tolec, focusing on some very good news, and that is the reported news of the defeat of the Orion Grey and Draco Reptilian factions and the practical end of their occupation of our planet, you know, kind of in the mopping up phases now. Welcome, Tolec.
Alfred, good afternoon. Good to chat with you again. From what I've learned, part of this solar system, its evolution, is to become a binary star system.
Okay.
It's just part of its evolution, and Tacoma was chosen, and it's coming in, and they're going to disconnect the hitch, and off goes Elenin to whatever it's going to do in the future. You know, it's heading out. But Tacoma is definitely going to stick around, and it's going to be, like I said, in orbit between Venus and the Earth, but much closer to Venus. Okay?
Now, what about the possible disruptions to this solar system? Most importantly, to Earth. I mean, you're bringing in Tacoma, this brown dwarf, into the solar system. You're bringing it right in between Venus and Earth, and you're launching it into that orbit. I mean, my God, you know, talk about celestial mechanics.
Yeah. And I think the question you're asking is, what's the cause and effect to Earth?
Yeah.
I'm going to provide you with part A and part B of my answers.
Okay.
Part A is very much like with Chairman Darka, Vice Chairwoman Adria, and everybody else that works on that biosphere. That biosphere, in combination of other Andromeda Council flag biospheres, and I'm going to borrow another Star Trek term, they are projecting out a combination of force fields. These multiple biospheres are using their combined force field technology to, if you will, envelop and buffer planet Earth, so that there is as little disruption to the planet as possible. Now, part B of the answer is what could happen as Tacoma settles into place. You could have some earthquakes, you could have some sea quakes, maybe one in the Pacific, maybe one in the Atlantic. At this point, it's really hard to tell because Tacoma is supposed to arrive like in mid-October, about a month, maybe a month and a week from now, somewhere around that. So we're looking at another month of Earth time, and certainly cosmic time, and space is a big place, and there are a lot of things that could happen. We know it's on track to arrive, but we're just going to have to be patient and wait to see what happens and how Tacoma settles in. I will be talking to them again, and we can certainly address this topic of possible disruptions. You know, a week and a half, 2 weeks out, I'll have some more plausible answers in terms of cause and effect.
Okay, good. Now, my monkey brain has kicked in again.
Sure, go ahead.
And with a couple of observations. The first is that today's Friday, September 9th, and about 4 hours ago, a 6.4 earthquake occurred just 25 miles from here, from Vancouver, BC, off coast in the Pacific Ocean. Now, that hasn't happened for at least 5 years, and I find it strangely synchronistic that we're talking about this, and an earthquake happens 25 miles off the coast here.
Right.
Are these quakes at all connected to these celestial events, or to what they call the photon belt?
In our general Earth space, and certainly the space surrounding our solar system, as the solar system moves into this higher vibratory area of space called the galactic equatorial plane, which is fourth dimensional energy. Oh yeah, which also has highly magnetic energy of a black hole. That's A and B. C, you've got high amounts of discharge of magnetic plasma energy from the sun. D, E, F. There are all sorts of things making up the soup right now, so I'm not able to tell you exactly what set off this particular quake,
Right.
but as a reference point, I know that a few months ago, maybe 5 or 6 months ago, just south of you, out in the Pacific Ocean, due like northwest of Portland, Oregon, there are a bunch of volcanoes that popped off underwater, and a whole bunch of lava that's turned into a new lava field underwater. So you have this chicken soup of cosmic energies all happening to our solar system and at the Earth almost all at the same time. So we're going to feel the cause and effect. As another reference point, I would say that it is highly likely that the people in California, Mexico, and Arizona, the 5 million plus people that lost power because of the coronal mass ejection that popped out a day ago, a day and a half ago, right? So what happens? This large coronal mass ejection happens, which comes with it an EMP, electromagnetic pulse. What happens? The West Coast loses power. Surprise! These are all cause and effects. I'm not a mathematician or a scientist, but I pay attention to stuff like this, and it's all part of the cosmic chicken soup that we're talking about.
Right. Now, let me get to a second question, and this really goes to your role as a representative of the Andromeda Council, and to the series, I would say series of very serious messages that you've been given, ranging from the end of the Gray Reptilian War to these messages now that we're sharing. Mid-October 2011 is just around the corner. I mean, Sunday, this coming Sunday is 9/11. So we're almost at mid-September. So it's almost a month away that this cloaked dwarf, giant brown dwarf, will be entering our solar system, and I'm not sure, we haven't gone into what the timing is of it settling into orbit. Now, here comes one question.
Sure.
What if these events do not occur as predicted? That is, mid-October comes, and we wait and we wait, and there is no decloaked brown dwarf that comes into the orbit between Venus and Earth. Would you then consult with the Andromeda Council? How are we, as sort of the public, then supposed to give credence to the information about the end of the reptilian gray occupation?
Elenin is on its way.
Yeah.
It's a comet, but it's made much more of rock than it is ice and gas.
Okay.
It's got a job. Its job is to clear the way for Tacoma.
Okay.
Tacoma will be here because it's part of its own destiny, its own cosmic destiny, to turn Earth into a binary star system. I would be extraordinarily surprised if Tacoma doesn't come in. And if it doesn't, I'm going to have some real hard questions with the boys upstairs.
I asked that question because when we did our first program on the end of the reptilian gray occupation, we were able to check that information with outside independent sources, and there was a congruence there.
Sure.
So that, you know, and so here, I'm just asking questions.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And I haven't answered part B of your question, which is, how does the arrival of Elenin and or Tacoma measure up or match with or have anything to do with the topic of the last interview, which is the end of the war in space going on for 10, 11 years between the combined forces of the Andromeda Council and the Orion Gray Reptilian bunch. The two topics have nothing to do with each other. The war is over. The Greys and Reptilians out in space have been defeated.
Yeah.
The people of the Andromeda Council are doing an amazing job here on Earth, cleaning up, if you will, the rats in the woodpile, or rather underneath the woodpile, because they're mostly in underground, undersea bases. But they are cleaning up, without a doubt. So, yeah, the war is over. The two topics have nothing to do with each other. The war is over. Okay,
good. Although, from a mega project perspective, perhaps if you're turning this into a binary, you know, from this kind of universal WPA perspective, one of the preconditions was that the solar system had to be cleared of these invaders. This is a speculation. I'm just tossing it out.
Okay. I know, by the way, it's funny that you touch on this because the Vice Chairwoman Tanya and Zoltar both said to me, we have got to clear these guys out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
They all but came out. Their words were gentle, but they all but came out and said, you know that little earthquake that you guys heard about in Virginia?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, the one in Washington, D.C.? Well, it was no earthquake. If you take a look at the depth of the registered, the measured wave that came out, it wasn't that deep in the ground, was it? No. Well, so that spurred me to ask some questions, and the bottom line is, we used a sonic pulse. We gave them, I'm going to back up, we gave them, the rats in the tunnel, the rats in the maze, more than enough warning, more than enough advisement, enough conversations have been held to say, stop messing with the people of planet Earth and get out, specifically in that nation's capital. Leave them alone. I'm like, no, we're here, we got a job to do. So they said, all right, so we did. A concentrated sonic wave pulse. And think of what happens when you put a lid on a Tupperware jar and then you thump it. Well, that thump, in essence, is what they did. And that thump collapsed a whole bunch of the caves underneath that area and killed a whole bunch of Greys and Reptilians. And, you know, it's not an action that the Andromeda Council likes to take, but they warned them enough times. Any of the guys in the war that were left over, they rounded up and they sent through a Stargate out to the far edge of the universe. These guys weren't going to leave. They're like, fine, you know, so be it. So, I know we hadn't talked about this, but there are things that happen that they have to do in order to cleanse Earth so it can evolve. And the manipulative negative energy of the Reptilians and the Greys, and therefore the control and the manipulation of Earth's population is not part of its evolution.